on this episode of the Sorority Chat podcast.
I tell people, especially young kids that I meet, do what makes you happy, not what, don't worry about the wallet. The dollars will always come, but don't do something because you think that's what you want to do or that's what you're supposed to do. And you'll find you're going to be much happier.
Hey y'all, and welcome to Sorority Chat. I'm Liz Alexander, a designer and sorority alum who's obsessed with all things Greek life. My mission? To bring you real conversations, smart insights, and fun stories that help make sorority living even better. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's chat. Hey sorority chatters, welcome back this week. Joining us today is Kyle Capron, an account executive at Skirt Food Service. And he jokingly will tell you he calls his job title a fancy name for salesman, but it's much more than that. He spent more than 4 decades working in and around the food industry. His journey started back in 1983 as a grill cook at Dairy Queen in a mall when he was in college. After realizing college wasn't the right fit for him, he built his career through hands-on experience, working as a server, a bartender, a cook, and an assistant manager before moving into equipment and supply sales. He's an adventurous foodie who loves trying new things, though he says his main job in the kitchen at home is just cutting vegetables and working the grill. In the summer, you will almost always find him at a racetrack. Kyle has attended the Indy 500 more than 50 times, and he's heading back again this year. Today, we're going to talk about building a career without a traditional path, adapting to new technology in the kitchen, and how innovation is changing the way that restaurants and food service operations work. Welcome, Kyle.
Hey, good morning or good afternoon, whatever time zone you might be in right now.
It is lovely to see you, and I'm excited to chat today.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, let's go back to the early days at Dairy Queen. Did you ever imagine that your first job at DQ would really translate into a lifelong career in the food industry?
I had no idea. It was just a way to make a couple of bucks when you're in college and put gas in the car.
Yeah, that's fair.
And eat free ice cream because I was the closer. So I just made myself a really nice hot fudge sundae before I started, cleaning up for the night.
That's funny. So I'm a DQ lover myself, and I will often take my dog that tends to be in the background here. We'll take him over and we'll get blizzards and he'll get a pup cup and he ends up with whipped cream all over his face by the end of the car ride from our Dairy Queen visits.
Fantastic. Yeah, it was, I was going into environmental engineering, which turned into journalism, which turned into about 3 other majors in 7 semesters of college, and none of them went very far. So as I always said, I couldn't drive a nail, but I could always cook. So food service, it was, and not construction.
Yeah. Okay. So I appreciate that, right? Because a lot of times I think the message that we receive is that you must go to college. And we were actually just talking about this, the production team and I, before we started recording the episode. And I think there's so much value that can come from other skills and trades. And so what was kind of the turning point, or when you decided, all right, college is not the right fit for me? Like, what made you realize that and then move a different direction?
Honestly, when I kept getting letters from the administration saying, "We think you're wasting your parents' money."
Oh my goodness.
So the first university basically was like, "You're wasting your parents' money." And then the second one, I came in on academic probation and I was just not hitting the B+ that they wanted for a probationary student to hit. Went back to, did construction, which I'd done over the summers, and really didn't like that. And honestly, it wasn't all that handy, but I knew I could cook. So I went back into food service, always thinking something might happen. So
Yeah. No, that's good. I mean, you recognized your strengths and leaned back into them and didn't do stuff that you didn't want to get into, like construction.
I enjoyed the food service. It was fun. I'm outgoing. I'm gregarious. So it was a way to interact with people. And what I didn't realize is it was developing my sales skills. The farther I went, the nicer establishments that I worked my way up into, they started, we'd start having server meetings and we're talking about boosting check averages and that. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, this is sales. Getting people to buy the appetizer, buy the dessert. buy the wine, buy the nicer wine. It all built up into suggestive selling, knowing products, being able to relate that knowledge to the customer so that they could make an educated choice. I didn't really realize that I would be doing that selling restaurant equipment, but it came to the point where I made the transition right after I got engaged. And my wife was finishing her degree in college and getting ready to start her career. And we started talking, well, what about family and that? And I had missed too many holiday dinners. We were, got to the point where we were two ships in the night. I was coming in from closing a bar and she was getting ready to head out to class or work. And it was, trying to find time to do all that. I was to the point where this isn't going to work. And this wasn't what we wanted to do. So then I started looking for sales positions, and I found a place at a local restaurant equipment dealer, and I went in there and they said, "Can you sell?" I said, "I can sell a $90 bottle of wine, so I can sell a tongue or a ladle." And they asked me a couple of questions about equipment. The next thing I knew, I was hired, and 40 years later, I'm still slinging restaurant equipment.
You must love what you do then if you've stuck around for that long in the industry.
I do. The benefits, like today, a factory ended up brought one of their mobile ovens in. So when I get done with here, I've got some clients that I'm going to meet. And if we get a mobile oven and we've got a chef here, that means we're going to eat. So that's one of the benefits of this is when we do these demos, I'm always getting a decent meal out of it.
Yeah, not a bad way to work.
No.
It's interesting that you brought up the point of, you thought you were just going to be a server, but it really became about sales. And I think that happens in a lot of industries. Sales is such an undercurrent part of it. And folks don't make that designation and realize that until they're a little bit further into it. And you talked about your personality and how that played into sales. And I think that's a good distinction for folks that are listening who maybe aren't sure what they want to do or are still trying to figure out what their skills are and how to develop them. That just gives them a little bit of insight into the industries and how things might show up later.
Yeah, I've got a 22-year-old son that's going non-traditional. He went 3 semesters of school and went, for what I want to do, they're making me do all this other stuff that I don't want to do. So he went into the trades. And so he's in the trades, and he's now a first-year apprentice electrician, and he's going through the electric. So he's trained to be an electrician. So I tell people, especially young kids that I meet, do what makes you happy. Don't worry about the wallet. The dollars will always come. But don't do something because you think that's what you want to do or that's what you're supposed to do. And you'll find you're going to be much happier.
I agree. I mean, that is very solid advice. You talked about how you were engaged and you were realizing life was not shaping up the way that you wanted it to. And so you made a decision to support the life that you wanted and you weren't focused on the dollars. And I agree. They follow. The dollars will come once you get aligned in your career, and not enough people say that out loud.
It's becoming more and more evident that with the technology changes and information changes, that college isn't for everybody, shouldn't be everybody. And I'm a big advocate for bringing the trades back. One of the things I think we work with is, trying to develop culinary arts programs. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that's helped culinary in general is Food Network.
Yeah.
Guys' grocery games, especially when they bring in home cooks and, they show what they can do, and then bringing new chefs that are coming into the markets and showing the talent that it is a viable industry to be in. I mean, people always are going to eat, and it's no two ways about it. So that's one thing about this, being in the food industry. Your market may change, but one thing people are going to have to do every day is eat.
Yeah.
Whether they're in school, whether they're in prison, whether they're in nursing home or hospital, there's a market.
Yep. You were so right. I threw my hands up in agreement when you said that we need the trades, because again, I was just having this conversation. Electricians, plumbers, upholsterers, all these folks that I see on my side of the industry. It is hard to find people to do these jobs and do this work. People that are skilled at it are retiring. It's a dying industry, and we need more younger folks to learn the trades and to be out there because the work is needed. And so I was glad to hear you say that.
Yeah, I'm sure you run into the same problem that we do. We can get the work, we can get a project. It's finding someone to execute the project.
Yeah, and execute it skillfully, right? Because you may get somebody that's like, oh yeah, I can do that, I can install that, and then it may not be the case.
You got to end up with egg on your face.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, it's like people say, I want to do this project. I go, well, this is when I can get somebody to do it, and that's what it is. It's hard. We got very fortunate. We picked up two young kids that one of them was diesel mechanic, and the other one worked in an allied food industry, and we picked them up to hire. So we have two full-time installers, and they're in their mid-20s, and we hope to keep them around for a long time. They got a lot of talent, and when you find good people with mechanical aptitude, you do not want to let them go.
I fully agree. And if you've got someone who is teachable, then they can learn those skills. And if you can coach them, it's so much easier than someone who feels like they know it all, or you can't coach them up and teach them new things within the industry.
Yeah, very much so.
So you were talking a little bit about projects. I know that you work with Greek organizations on helping them get their commercial kitchens together. So talk a little bit about that side of the business and what y'all do.
So we do everything from simple replacing a single refrigerator to doing a full kitchen design, and then help on the procurement process for all the equipment and getting it installed. So kind of all points in between. I just had one of the food catering companies reach out to me. So I'll be heading up next week to Michigan State University to look how we're going to redo their dish room. Right now they have a small under-counter dish machine, and they have their purpose, but a Greek sorority house is not the place for them. The house is big enough that they need what we call a door machine. That's the one you typically think of, the upright machine. So it's going to involve removing some cabinetry and redoing a stainless steel top and things like that. So I'll go up there, take the field measurements, discuss what cabinets they can lose, what cabinets they can keep, what we'll have to do to rearrange it, and then look at the utilities involved. Are the drains going to match? We're going to have to rework drains. We're going to have to rework power and all that.
It is complicated to an extent. It seems so straightforward, like, oh, what kitchen equipment do we need? And then you've just talked about all these nuances that are necessary. And then you've got the food service company, you have your equipment company. Then sometimes you have folks like my team that come in, and everyone has to collaborate to create an end result that works well for the particular organization and the house that they're in, because not every house is the same.
Oh, no. The houses are as different can be. And we can see it, and it's interesting. The East Coast, we do a lot of work on the East Coast. Those are typically smaller houses, smaller chapters. You get to the Midwest, you get to the Big Ten, houses are kind of medium sized. Then you get to the SEC, and that's a whole different world completely. I mean, those are hotels, basically.
Agreed. Yeah.
And then you get to the West Coast, and again, it's like the East Coast, where the Greek life really isn't as prevalent. You have all the big national houses there, but they're much smaller chapter sizes.
I think that's one of the most fascinating things that I've learned through my work and through traveling is the regional impact and kind of template, maybe I'll call it, for Greek life, because you've summed it up very well. And so, the SEC is quite the powerhouse in Greek life. And then you do have the Big Ten and the Midwest schools that are also pretty large. And then as you get a little further out, it changes the dynamic a little bit.
And I don't know why that is. I've never really, haven't really asked, but I just thought it was interesting that, the center part of the United States, Greek life is about as important as anything, as the educational part of the college life.
Yeah. It'd be an interesting anthropological study, I guess, to understand why that is and how it's come about. Kind of back to kitchen stuff. I know that you're passionate about kitchen automation. And so what does that actually mean?
Kitchen automation, there's two ways. When you go to the big restaurant shows, there are machines that will literally grab fries out of a refrigerator, dump them into the fryer, pull them out of the fryer, and put them in a basket.
Stop.
No, they have kitchen robots. Now, they're really cool at a trade show, but do you want to be, and we all know that restaurant equipment breaks down, and it's hard enough to find technicians that can fix the regular stuff. I don't want to have my restaurant that's doing a lot of fried items and have a robot go down. So it's fun to watch at a show, but I would never recommend it for anybody. But backtracking, the single biggest piece of equipment that has come through to help in automation is what they call a Combi oven. So picture a standard convection oven and add steam injection to it. So now this one piece of equipment, I can run straight convection, I can run straight steam, but the vast majority of the time I'm running in a hybrid of steam injecting to it while it's in the convection mode. When they first came out, they hadn't been out much before I got into the industry. They were a lot simpler. Basically, they were just dials. So you adjusted your temperature, your steam load, and your time. They've got to the point now, they're basically a small computer on the screen. They came in probably 10 years after the oven was originally introduced to try and make it simpler. When we were trying to sell them into schools, the kitchen ladies were like, I can't do this. This is a computer. Fast forward today, everybody, even my 90-year-old dad, has a smartphone with all kinds of apps on it. It is no different. Those apps are basically the same way these ovens work. So it has made it much easier because we'll go to a demo or a training and they'll see it and they're like, what in the, I said, grab your phone out. Can you go to Google? And it's like that. I'm like, okay, now you can do this. And once we start showing them what they can do with it, it's like, it is. I go, it's all app-based. But the nice thing is I can program each individual shelf to tell me when it's done, and I can set up the menu in it. So if I'm going to do the same menu, especially in K-12, but we're kind of adapting it to Greek, K-12 runs on like a 3-week rotation. So every third week is the same. Well, I can set the menu up so that on week 1, it's all the week 1 menu. So I can pull up Monday's menu, Tuesday's menu. So that way, anyone that's working in the kitchen can basically go in and go, Tuesday, chicken, put it in. It tells it when to load, tells it when to take out. So you don't have to be a chef. So if the manager is busy, she can tell the dishwasher, go in and we're going to do chicken today, hit the chicken button and that menu will come up. Well, what that does is the Greek houses maybe have 1 or 2, when I say that, SEC exempt because they're just their own world.
Yeah.
But most of the houses have a chef and an assistant, and they're cooking for anywhere from 40 to 150 people, 2 to 3 meals a day. If they can get the oven to do the work and do all the thinking, now they can do the presentation. Now they can do the special things, work around the allergies and the menu restrictions that they have to deal with.
That is really cool. I did not know that automation was showing up in that way in commercial kitchens. I am someone who am on one side, like kind of freaked out by the automation. I'm, used to watch Smart House on Disney and saw the house revolt against the humans. That's the irrational side. And then there's the other side of me who uses the smart vacuums, uses the apps based on the washer and dryer and the ovens. And I see how that streamlines my tasks. And to your point, lets me focus on the meaningful things that require human touch and then automate the unnecessary sort of tedious tasks. So that's really cool how that shows up commercially.
Yeah, the really neat thing is all the accessory pans that they can start adding. They've got a round a pan with a bunch of individual circles in it. Well, I can do fried eggs in it, or I could do pancakes in it, or if I do pancakes and pancakes in one pan and eggs in the other, now I've got pancake and egg sandwiches. I mean, it's just the coolest thing. And what usually pushes people over the edge is the self-cleaning factor.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
Basically, I put the cleaning tabs in, I shut the door, turn it on, walk away. I come back tomorrow morning and it's as clean as it was the day that we brought it in.
That's impressive because when you're cooking for that many people and that regularly, they get gross fast.
They do. And that's the problem. I don't have to use the caustic chemicals or not. So the problem with a convection oven is they get gross. They get gross fast. And then you clean it. Then it smells like Easy Off. Plus you've paid somebody, 3 hours to get it cleaned. In 72 hours, it looks just like it did. And that's the beauty of the Combi oven.
Yeah, so that's really neat. What I hear, or what keeps coming to mind as you're explaining what this oven can do and the automation, is if you are a kitchen team that may be short-staffed, or like you said, if the manager's busy, it doesn't bottleneck the whole operation. It seems like it would really make it possible to get more done because the oven is doing some of the heavy lifting operationally for you.
Exactly. And we're trying to get it to the point where the hardest thing with them, or I guess our stumbling blocks a little bit, are when we go in and try and add them to an older house, is a utility issue. These houses were built, a lot of them, turn of the 20th century. When a dorm room had a wind-up alarm clock and a desk lamp, even to the 50s and 60s. Maybe we added a record player at that time.
Those are coming back though.
But now these kids are dragging in a cell phone, a laptop, an MP3 player, a 60-inch TV, a Game Boy, system, and these rooms don't have that power. Well, the kitchen is no better. So we're fighting. We always have to fight that. But what we're trying to do is get it so that we can even work with it. These chefs are nervous. They think we're trying to take their jobs away from them. But what we're trying to do is make their job easier. The ones that get it. The ones that don't, boy, it's definitely a struggle to get them on the team with it.
Isn't that the whole AI conversation right now? You have one camp that's like, okay, I see how this can assist me and level up my performance. And then you have another camp that's screaming like computers are going to replace us. And there really is not a lot of middle ground. It's one or the other.
Yes, very much so. But with this, what we're trying to help especially the catering companies is, hey, with this we can work with the house directors and set it up so we can start doing some stuff on the weekend that they can if you prep it on Friday, now you can offer stuff on Saturday or Sundays. Now you can offer extra meals, which means extra profit without as much labor.
Yeah, which that should please quite a lot of people, right? You've got the students that are being fed. You have the house director or the kitchen team who has that service, the organization, like you said, the profits. There's a lot of benefits to that going into this operationally.
We're working really hard with our architect buddies that when we start putting, when we have a chance to do a full new design, that we try and incorporate a Combi to the house. Our biggest problem, especially on new designs, our first question is, all right, do you have your food service company locked down? No. Great. Because we try and make the kitchen work for the budget for the house, but we also want to make it work for the food service provider and try and give them all the tools they can. And the last thing we want to do is design this great kitchen and then have them walk in and go, this isn't going to work. And it's always hard trying to bring them in at the beginning, but we always want to make sure that the contract's signed so that we don't design it one way and then at the last minute they don't sign the contract and somebody else comes in.
Yeah. There needs to be a lot of collaboration as you're creating that space. I totally hear you. I'm curious, aside from these ovens, what are other kitchen trends that you see coming down the pike for Greek housing?
Greek housing, the one that we were struggling with is the after-hour meals.
Yeah.
Kids these days don't eat at 8, noon, and 5 anymore. And trying to get them, other than doing having a refrigerator and a microwave for a late plate, is trying to get them, fed all hours of the night without having them run up huge DoorDash bills. And we just haven't found that thing. And that's what we're looking for, because we've got food service providers coming and go, how are we going to do this? And to make sure that, we can charge for it. and keep track of it. That's the hard thing. It's like, well, we can do these in K-12. We have smart vending machines, and you're seeing them in like airports, hospitals, high schools. It's a vending machine, and basically you swipe your card and the shelves are weighted so that they know how many Cokes are on there, how many salads are on there, how many of this. So as soon as you take the product off, the scale adjusts and it comes up. It knows that if you put that in the wrong, you decide you don't want it and you put it in the wrong shelf, it'll say, excuse me, a little red light will light up and it'll charge you until you put it back to where you're going. And it's nice. It gives a report to the operator, the machine's low, this shelf's coming out of date. You can adjust the price to kind of, all right, we'll drop it $1 and see if we can move these salads off because they're getting close to. But there's a lot of technology involved with it. So, finding internet in the house that'll work. And they're a little bit bulkier than a regular vending machine. The nice thing is they run on basic 120 voltage, so you don't have to do anything special there. It's a matter of keeping it stocked and rotating it, and that isn't fraternity proof.
Is anything fraternity proof?
Nothing is fraternity proof.
Yeah, that is very true. That is an interesting concept, though, and it sounds like it presents some challenges, but then some opportunities as well. I hadn't really thought about the way that student schedules have evolved, and it is kind of around the clock and how that would affect food service and staffing within the Greek house. So that's an interesting problem to think through.
In the Greek houses, it's even more because, as we know, Greeks are more involved on campus. They're involved in campus government. They're athletes. They're, running, other club, they might be in the press club or that club. So they're definitely on a less of a routine dining schedule than non-Greek students.
Yes, you're so right. Well, I mean, it'll be interesting to watch and see how you start solving for these issues and what products start showing up in the Greek houses to make life better.
Exactly. It's an always evolving industry. So we're looking forward to it. In a couple of weeks, we're going to Chicago for the National Restaurant Association. It's where all the manufacturers roll out all their new equipment. So we'll be on the hunt to see what products might be out there that evolve student dining.
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, on a personal note, I know you said you're the resident griller at your house. What's your favorite thing to throw on the grill?
Good steak's always fun. I always like bringing people over that have never had lamb and do lamb chops on the grill. The weirdest thing is, and the hardest thing for me to accept, is I see all these farms with sheep on them, but when you go to the grocery store, everything's Australian lamb. Fortunately, I live in a suburb that borders a rural area, so I found a couple of sheep breeders, and I'll just buy a half a sheep or a whole sheep.
Oh, nice.
So I do, farm to table. I have in-laws that are farmers, so I buy all my beef and pork directly from the farm. The thing about U.S. beef versus Australian lamb and Australian lamb's a bit gamier. And I think people will get their first taste of it. It's like, it's too gamey for me. But if you can find American source lamb, it's its own flavor. I'm not going to say it tastes like chicken because it certainly doesn't, but it doesn't taste like beef, but it doesn't have quite the gamey flavor or texture that Australian lamb does.
That's interesting. I did not know that. I enjoy lamb, especially when it's cooked well. And like you, I try to source my beef locally. I'll usually buy like a quarter of a beef from someone, and I am interested in expanding into pork and so on because the quality of it is just so much better than what I can go to the grocery store and get.
Yeah, it was really fun. The last half of beef that I bought from one of my brother-in-laws. And the way that he does it is we do it as a co-op. So he's a hobby farmer. So he'll have at any one time 8 to 14 head of cattle on his farm. And what he'll do is he'll sell all the sides off. And when it comes time to slaughter, if you have bought a side, you go to his farm and we do all the butchering there at the farm. So I tell him how thick I want my steaks, how much fat I want in the burger. So we set up teams. One team's running the saw, what other guys are actually, cleaning the things up. And then there's a team that's grinding, and then there's 4 or 5 of us that are vacuum sealing it. And you don't just do yours. So if you're in for everybody. So it took us 3 or 4 weekends, but we got through everybody's beef. Everybody, I don't want the brisket. I want I want it ground in with the chuck or whatever. So you can right there, you see it hanging, you cut it, you do it, and it's really fun. You're seeing the whole experience. Plus you're getting everything that you want.
You are braver than I. I'm happy to provide the feedback. I don't want to participate in the actual butchering and packaging. I'll just come pick it up. Oh my gosh. Well, Kyle, I learned a lot from this conversation. I appreciate you making time to come on and share all of your wisdom, from professional advice all the way into kitchen specifics with all of us today. If people want to connect with you further, what's the best way for them to do that?
The easiest way, because I'm a fossil, is through my email, which is kylec@skirtfoodservice.com, and that's spelled SCHERT foodservice.com.
Perfect. And we'll put that in the show notes as well. And I think don't hate on yourself for going via email. Everyone's making that switch slowly back to analog. And so I think you're onto something there.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Kyle.
Hey, thanks for inviting me. It was a great time.
Welcome to Liz's House Hot Takes. This is where I take the lessons I've learned over the last 16 years of designing Greek houses and offer you my pro tips. Here's today's House Hot Take. Don't ignore the alumni experience. Alumni events, work weekends, advisory board meetings, design spaces that feel polished and welcoming for your alums too. They are your biggest advocates and your biggest donors. When you make space for them, they remain connected and they continue offering their support to your housing projects. Thanks for listening to another House Hot Take. For more inspiration, check out the PDR Interiors Instagram or TikTok. I'm Liz Alexander, and this is the Sorority Chat podcast. Catch you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're listening on a podcast platform, make sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. And if you got something out of today's conversation, we'd love for you to leave us a 5-star review. It helps us reach more listeners just like you. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to check out this video right here or this one over here. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us out. I'm Liz Alexander, and this is the Sorority Chat podcast. Catch you next time. This podcast is produced by Collier Landry for Don't Touch My Radio. Copyright Liz Alexander.